The first real taste of the 2025 NFL season is officially here. It is schedule release night for the 2025 NFL season. Welcome into the Bear Report podcast, the live reaction of the Chicago Bears schedule release. He's Zack Pearson. I'm Steven Johnson. And Zack, even though we've pretty much known what the schedule is going to be for the last couple hours, here we are, ready to rock and hopefully feeling a little bit more optimistic about what the Bears' chances are this upcoming season with Ben Johnson in his first year as an NFL head coach.
Yeah, this is always a fun time. The NFL drags this on. They used to do it right before the draft, and now they found out that teams, come out with these fun videos, which looks like the Bears have released theirs. They come out with games on shows that they release and announce throughout the week. So yeah, another time to feel optimistic about the Bears. And here we go. The schedule is going on. There's the ESPN notification, and let's just get right into it then.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise, as we know that there were two games early on, both the Philadelphia Eagles on Black Friday and then the Green Bay Packers on the Saturday before Christmas on December 20th as being the two big pre-release leaks. However, the Bears going to start things off with a bang week one in primetime. Been a bit since this has occurred, where we are looking, and we're gonna pull this up because the graphic was just dropped. So give us 1 second here. And
you get some preseason games too.
Yeah, we do have some preseason games on top of that. Here is the schedule, the lovely graphic that they have built out for the Chicago Bears. They are starting on Monday Night Football, week one, against the Minnesota Vikings. I gotta say, I'm a little excited about it. I'm surprised that ended up being the case, because I think there were a lot of folks that weren't necessarily expecting them to go that route.
Yeah, first time they've opened up on Monday nights, I think 1997, when they played the Packers and got smoked. They beat the Cowboys on Monday Night Football the year before at home. That was 96, so I think was Dallas the defending Super Bowl champs, or probably around there, right? Yep. I actually remember that game. I think Emmitt Smith got hurt in the first quarter and had to miss did he break his neck or something crazy like that? I don't know. And then they did 87, I believe it is. So this will be the fourth time they've been on Monday Night Football to open up. And right away, already an interesting storyline. You get Ben Johnson's offense against Brian Flores' defense. Brian Flores firing Ben Johnson in Miami. And then you get the local J.J. McCarthy quarterback making his first career start, as we assume he will be, against, fellow draft class quarterback in Caleb Williams, in a divisional game right away. So two divisional games actually right away. They go to Detroit the week after on a short week. So a little bit of a tough start there to that schedule.
In front of a very raucous crowd is what will more than likely be the case at Soldier Field there on that Monday night. Probably part of a doubleheader. I'd have to assume that they have been doing that for the better part of the last few years here, having the back-to-back Monday night games. So we'll see the rest of that as it comes to fruition. But like you mentioned, week two, heading on the road to the Detroit Lions. Again, that you get another whole storyline there. Ben Johnson going back to Detroit, where he really rose to stardom from a coaching perspective. And the question now looming, how good is that Detroit offense without Ben Johnson calling the plays? And is it more, a fluke of an offense? I don't necessarily think so, but that opportunity will be there for Ben Johnson to walk in. And again, a Bears team that a year ago fought pretty darn hard against the Detroit Lions up in Detroit, and almost winning it. As we all know, the clock mismanagement that occurred over the course of that game, but a chance to rebound and again just kind of set the tone immediately out of the gate. And I have to say, I like the start here
Yeah.
with the fact that if things go well, starting 2-0, you get 2 divisional wins immediately out of the gate. You're able to kick things off with a strong victory week 1, and then again go on the road, really get the feather in the cap for the coach, and get things started. And frankly, past that, there is not much, in my opinion, that is stopping them from starting the season 4-0 if
Yeah,
they
well,
get through that.
so one thing I did want to know, because now we got the full preseason too. They have a Sunday night preseason game against the Buffalo Bills at Soldier Field in week
They
2, and
do.
it's a Fox game. So that's kind of interesting. I can't remember the last time they had a Sunday night preseason game, and obviously they had their preseason the 22nd of Friday at Kansas City. They have week 1 against Miami Dolphins, still to be determined. So it's a national, one national game in the preseason for the Bears, which is a little interesting. But yeah, you look okay. I mean, if you can win those 2 divisional games, you're obviously feeling really good about Dallas at home, and on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders. So, 4-0 is a little optimistic, but I don't think it's out
It
the
is. It
question.
is.
I think like if 3-3, if or 3-1, I'm sorry, if you come out of there 3-1, and you get at least 1 divisional game, I think that's a big plus. We'll see. I think that game at Detroit's going to be really tough. But I like their chances against Minnesota. I like their chances against Dallas, and I surely like their chances against the Raiders. But here's the other thing: look at that bye week 5. That means there's 13 games after the bye week for the Bears. So that's a very early bye.
Yeah, that's going to come back to bite them. I think when it in the grand scheme, especially with the extended, we're going to zoom in on this a little bit. Actually, there we go. This is a lot easier to read. Yeah, week 5. That's going to be the first bye week of the NFL season.
Yeah.
For week 5, and I tell you, I like the extra uh opportunity for them to over prepare for Washington heading into week 6. But again, there are pieces to the back end of the schedule that are going to be brutal. And I think once they get to end of November, excuse me, it's going to be some rough skidding here. Just trying to make sure, are you healthy? Can you rebound from it? A lot of noon games in a row as well. They play 6 straight noon games down
Ooh.
the stretch here from week 7 all the way up to 12. So not ideal either. I mean, really out of the norm. It's kind of reset itself as a normal schedule. But again, past week 5, you then get the Commanders. I think we were all kind of expecting them to get the Christmas Day game against the Commanders
Yeah.
because of the Commanders also playing a Saturday game the week prior, which the Bears are also up against Green Bay on the 20th. But shockingly, I think that was the biggest surprise to me that's what occurred. And again, Monday Night Football, 2 Monday Night Football games in the first 6 weeks.
Also, Commanders out of the bye. Same thing that happened last year. They got the Commanders out of the bye in a standalone slot. I guess you could call it prime time. I think that's a different debate. Coming off the bye week, and last time they're coming out of the London game with the bye, but now they're Vegas. They get the bye. I mean, then you get the stretch of the noon games right there before you get Philadelphia in a prime time. So what do they got? Minnesota prime time, Washington prime time, Philadelphia prime time. Green Bay could be prime time. It's either 3 or 6:30.
Yeah.
So how many is that? 4, and then
4,
San
and then San
Francisco.
Francisco, unless it gets flexed, which
Yes.
I mean, it's very possible that it could, but it's also 2 very followed teams late in the season. Again, there's a lot of people expecting the Niners to kind of have a down year. It's probably going to hinge on that. Again, if the Bears don't live up to the hype, obviously the hype machine is here with 5 potential primetime games, and that's not including any additional games that could be flexed.
Yeah.
to prime time. Again, that week 18 against the Lions very much could be in play as well, as a possibility there for the divisional games. And then again, looking at that stretch of 6 games in between that are all at noon, at least one shift I would have to imagine to the later window in the national window, America's Game of the Week on Fox, maybe across some of those, because there's some interesting matchups. So they get back from Washington. They welcome the Saints, who look like an absolute train wreck right now.
That looks like a team getting ready for the number 1 pick, or in the running for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, Arch Manning is looking like he might be following in the footsteps of his grandpa if things work out the way that they are. So again, kind of a layup game as it stands right there, and you don't necessarily want to overlook it at the same time, because that's really where the schedule starts to turn for the Bears, and I get a little bit more concerned. At Baltimore, at Cincinnati, the Giants. Okay. Giants kind of in the same boat. I don't think anyone's really too concerned about the Giants at this point. But then you get the Vikings on the road. The Steelers always play tough. And then the Eagles on the road. Packers on the road. That's a rough 7-game stretch.
Green Bay,
Giants.
2 times in 3 weeks, too.
I can't stand that. Like, I don't understand why they can't stretch out the divisional games more than they do. I mean, even seeing the Lions week 2 and then having to wait all the way to week 18 feels weird to me.
Yeah.
And I know that things have to shift a specific way, but getting 2 December games against the Packers just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, and who knows what it could be. Potential seeding, could be potential NFC North. But yeah, you're playing the same team twice in 3 weeks. You're going to get a good look at them. You get Detroit week 2 and week 18. Minnesota's spread apart by, 8 games or so. But yeah, I mean, I look at this stretch and I'm looking, okay, let's look at the first 4 games. Let's say the Bears go 2-2, 3-1. Okay. Then you get Washington. Let's say they're 3-2 in that stretch after the bye, and then you get Washington. The bookends of the Saints and Giants are probably must wins for me, because you're looking at on the road at Baltimore, not easy. On the road at Cincinnati, not very easy as well. And then you get the Giants as the bookend. So if you're looking at 3-2 and you can come out of this stretch of those next 4 games at 2-2, I'd say that's a win. You'll be 5-4 going into a tough stretch to end the year. I think that's very doable. Because then you don't know what the Steelers are going to be, if they got Aaron Rodgers or not. Minnesota is a road game. Philly is going to be a very tough game. Green Bay is going to be a tough game as well. So yeah, they're looking at a stretch here. What is that? Mid-November through early December, where I think that's the key after that, the 2 bookend games. We got Minnesota, you got Pittsburgh, you got Philly and Green Bay. That might determine what the Bears do this season. Because, I mean, I could see them going 1-3 as easy as I could see them going 2-2. Honestly, I think 4-0 is probably out of the question. I'd say 3-1 would be like everything goes right for them in a way.
Yeah, and I think to that point, just looking at the difficulty of this before the schedules were even announced, the Bears sitting with the second hardest opponent setup in terms of strength of schedule from 2024 records, which is very much not what you want to hear, especially when you finish 4th in your division. Usually not the case. But unfortunately, the way that the division matchups went this year in facing both the NFC East and the AFC North, not much you could do to avoid that setup. But let's look here. So again, we get past that stretch. The Browns, again, another team that kind of seems in flux of, we don't know what to expect out of them. Defensively, they seem to have it together more often than not. No idea. There's 6 quarterbacks in that quarterback room. We don't even know who's going to be on the roster come August. So you got, You got Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett.
That's 5.
Well, it won't be Deshaun Watson. I think
Yeah.
we can say it probably won't be Deshaun Watson. Who knows? I mean, that could be Sanders or Gabriel time that late in the season. You know, if one of them plays earlier, you know, maybe give the other guy a look. If it's Kenny Pickett, that probably means that he's been good because I think him or Flacco will start the year. So if it's Pickett or Flacco, it means that the Browns are fighting for playoff. They're off to a good start. Yeah, but you know, it's tough. And someone just pointed out on Twitter because I put out some thoughts really quick. At the back end of the schedule is brutal, and it felt like this last year too. And someone said that your depth is really going to be tested towards the end of the season, and that's true. That's true every single year because you're going to have injuries, you know, things like that. But for me, I look at it, man. I hate the San Francisco game. I absolutely hate it. I don't like that it's Sunday night football. I don't like that it's late December. I just it feels like a game where the Bears, you know, let's say they split with Green Bay, they beat the Browns, they're a 2-1 stretch there, and they're going in San Francisco, and they probably need this game to stay in the wild card race or something. I hate that game. Like you said, it's a house of horrors for the Bears. And who knows what San Francisco is going to be. I mean, they could be good. They could be, you know, bad again. But I hate that game. I hate the Bears playing there. I know they won the first ever game there. But yeah, it sucks. Generally, even when they play there, they don't play well, you know?
Yeah. And that's going to be the telling factor, because the last thing you want is a must-win game there. It just that does there's nothing about that feels good to me.
Yeah.
If the Bears are in a position where, you know, week 18 is do or die, I do feel better about that. I'm just not sold that the Lions are going to be the Lions that we've seen. There's something about it. I could be completely wrong. I think I am putting too much stock, and maybe that's just the bias of Ben Johnson now being with the Bears. But something there just feels a little bit off to what is being anticipated for this season and how everything's going to go. So let's do this. Let's do this. Game by game. We will go through here, win and loss, and we'll see if we can set it here. So we'll start here, and week 1, Monday Night Football, Soldier Field, Bears Vikings. Do the Bears pick up the dub?
Yes, I think the Bears will win this game. I think the rookie quarterback scenario, I think Ben Johnson is better prepared for Brian Flores' defense. Caleb Williams has seen Brian Flores now twice. The Bears win that game.
Okay, I'm right there with you. I do believe that they're going to be in the same boat. Again, JJ McCarthy. This is going to be his first game, or assuming that it's going to be his first game as an NFL starting quarterback, and that's going to be a learning curve, especially after sitting out for a season with a knee injury. So both starting off on the right foot. Then again on the road Sunday afternoon against the Detroit Lions, coming straight back there against the Lions, I believe, in their home opener, as I think they're on the road week 1.
Yeah. I think that's a loss. I think the first game at Detroit, maybe emotions are going to be a little high. I think I think it's a loss for the Bears in that one.
Yeah, I want to stay in a positive mindset of saying, well, they almost beat them, and Matt Eberflus was the head coach, but I can't do that just yet. I think that there's still a couple ways that this Lions team still proves to be more dominant than Chicago. Specifically, you're dealing with Adrian Hutchinson off the side too.
Yeah.
So again, that was something that the Lions didn't have for the vast majority of last year, and you need to account for that. Even with the Bears improving their offensive line, that is a situation that needs to be accounted for. And again, the Bears could do something that helps kind of supplement that divide, but I think that the Lions offense specifically is going to be out to prove that it's not just Ben Johnson that was making the offense go. It was the players in place.
It kind of, in a way, I hate, like, I don't want to, like, I hate saying like statement games or anything like that. It kind of feels like the Lions type of statement game where they lost, key piece to their offense and how they run their offense. And they kind of want to prove that, maybe it wasn't all Ben Johnson.
Right. All right. So 1-1 and 1-1. No disagreements just yet. How about week 3? Home against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I think that's a win. I mean, look, Pickens scares me, CeeDee Lamb scares me, Micah Parsons scares me, and Dak Prescott scares me. But I think this is a game where, the Bears can really find a way to get it done on offense. And, Matt Eberflus returns. I think a lot of players maybe have a little bit of motivation to kind of to beat his defense. But yeah, I'm gonna take the Bears in this one.
I'm right there with you as well. I'll be honest. There's nothing about Brian Schottenheimer that scares me as a leader with that team, and I'm
Yeah.
still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that he is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and there's going to be an impact where this new offense is going to have some struggles to what it can and cannot do. And again, Dak Prescott coming off of a season-ending injury. The running game is really not there, and that offensive line for Dallas is not what it used to be. And I think there's going to be some early onset concerns about that, let alone on the back end of the Dallas defense, that the Bears are going to be able to take advantage of, especially in front of a home crowd. I do think that's going to be a win as well. Vegas, week 4 at Allegiant Stadium. Are the Bears going 3-1 before the bye?
Yes. I don't know what the heck to expect from the Raiders. But I'm going to take the Bears in this one. I think the Bears are going to go out there. They're going to get a win. They're the better team. Even with, the Bears struggled last year, I think they're the better team.
I will cry if Ashton Genty runs all over Chicago, which he
Yeah.
probably will, because he's Ashton Genty and he has a fantastic amount of skill, as we all know, and Geno Smith now the quarterback there, and Pete Carroll. So the team is on the rise. It's going to be a difficult offense to deal with, especially with Brock Bowers, but that defense is still not much to write home about. And I do believe that there are going to be some things that the Bears, again, will be able to expose offensively and really start the season on a high note. I'm seeing 3-1 going into the break as well. Commanders after the bye, week 6, Monday Night Football, the beginning of the crime scene that was the 2024 season, with the Hail Mary that no one wants to remember. Are the Bears getting revenge in the nation's capital?
Well, I'm going to say this. That Hail Mary will be shown about 50 times on the broadcast. And we'll also be remembered of how bad Matt Eberflus's plan for that was, and how he doubled down and then tripled down on how bad his plan was for that. So that's going to be a game where probably you want to look away when that's shown. I think the Bears are going to win that game. I think they know that they should have beat the Commanders last year. A lot of the same players. I think that's a game where Caleb Williams is fueled because of the Jane Daniels hype, and the Jane rightfully so. I think that's a game that the Bears are going to win. And honestly, it's going to be a close one. I don't think there'll be any Hail Mary or anything like that, but I think the Bears win that game.
If there's another Hail Mary that the Bears lose on, I think I will cry myself to sleep that Monday night. I'm going to say it's a loss still. I do think that there were
Okay.
some improvements to the Washington squad that were made, that you're going to see some significant progress to Deebo Samuel now with the Commanders, and they've made some additional upgrades on the defensive side of the ball. And it would not shock me if they're also in the Trey Hendrickson sweepstakes to help bolster that defensive line back to what it was a couple of years ago when Chase Young was there with Montez Sweat. So I'm cautious on this one. I do think it is a very winnable game, but I think between being on the road, being in prime time, despite the fact that the Bears have played pretty decent in Washington historically, that
Yep.
there's going to be a missing piece there that's going to cause them the game. And again, please just don't be via a Hail Mary,
Hail
because I
Mary.
cannot take it. Back home, week 7 against the New Orleans Saints. And I mean, this feels like a rhetorical question with this game, given what
I
the Saints roster currently looks like.
I think we could agree that this one's a W.
Yeah.
Right.
There's nothing there. We're talking about what will probably be fighting for one of the worst records in all of the NFL in 2025. There is not much there outside of Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave. We don't know who's throwing the ball. I'm assuming it'll be Spencer Rattler, and that is still nothing that you necessarily want to write home about either for what
Boy,
is in
fun.
place. We'll just that's just a page turner more than anything.
Yes.
And then coming the difficult part of the schedule, really the toughest back-to-back of any of the game, arguably toughest back-to-back so far, being with the Baltimore Ravens in week number 8.
So here's what I'm gonna these next two I think are losses. I think because I said it earlier, on the road, 2 AFC North opponents. You look at Baltimore and lost to Buffalo in the playoffs, won the AFC North, still a really damn good team, lost to a really damn good team. They got Lamar Jackson. I think this is an MVP candidate. This is a loss. And I think looking at the Bengals, they're tough at home. It's really going to depend on that defense and what happens with Trey Hendrickson. But you look at, Joe Burrow's got his weapons back. They need to get that run game kind of situated. After that, I think the Bengals are pretty going to be better than they were last year. I just think this one being on the road, it's a tough game. I'm going to say these two right here make it easy for us. These two right here, I think, are losses.
Okay. I agree with you on Baltimore. I think that's going to be a train that the Bears will not be able to stop. Derrick Henry is still very much Derrick Henry,
Yes.
and that offense is still looking very much like a prolific one that I'm not sure the Bears defense has the capability to, put an end to in any shape or form, and probably looking at a very high scoring game from the Ravens perspective. However, I'm not necessarily sold on the Bengals' hot ending to the year where they made that final push for the playoffs. I still think this is a team that is struggling to find identity past paying the wide receivers and Joe Burrow. That Chase Brown having a season like he did his rookie year, on top of a defense that could be even more depleted than we look at it right now if Trey Hendrickson does get traded, which is looking more and more likely with his press conference the other day. I'm going to put the Bengals as a win. I think that they go in there and they have a statement road win that makes a big impact, and really is the first big road win of the season. The Raiders, screw it. I mean, there's going to be an overload of Bears fans in Vegas. That is what Vegas is. It is an away team haven. And the Bears travel well. They traveled well the last time there, but this is going to be the first big road win into a very hostile Bengals environment, which continues to be year after year, despite no matter how good or bad that team is. That brings us into a home game again. The second game in the month of November for the New York Giants. Russell Wilson, probably, maybe Jackson Dart at this point. We don't know. But again, a Giants team, a flimsy offensive line, but some fun weapons between Malik Neighbors, picking up Scadaboo in the draft, and then Tyrone Tracy, and then a really good defensive line.
That's my worry.
Yeah, that's my concern too. But I still think they're going to win this game.
Yeah.
I don't feel overly concerned that they won't be able to get past the threat of Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Brian Burns. I mean, that's a very good three. I wish the
Yes.
Bears had that three.
And their depth is pretty good too.
Yeah,
Behind it.
it's a scary thing, and it's going to be a big test for the offensive line and where they're at so far in the season. And you hope that the injuries don't hit at this point in time. So you're a win as well on this one.
Yeah, I'm a win on this one. I think, the only way the Giants win this game is they make it kind of, you know, physical, kind of one of those games where the Bears turn it over a couple times. They get after Caleb Williams. I think the Bears are going to win this game, though.
Okay. And then we get our first question of, do the Bears find themselves in position to potentially sweep an NFL or NFC North opponent heading on the road to face off with the Minnesota Vikings?
I think Minnesota wins this. I'm going to put this as a loss for the Bears. I think playing on the road at Minnesota, it's tough. I think JJ McCarthy will be a little better at this point. Yeah, I'm going to put this as a loss for the Bears. I think Minnesota takes care of this one.
Okay. I go back and forth because I know that the Vikings made some significant improvements to their team this offseason, and they invested in the line much the same way that the Bears did. More on the defensive side of the ball than offensive, but also I think that there's some additional pieces that aren't necessarily being talked about that are going to make a significant impact for the Vikings, specifically in the passing game. Again, you also have Hawkinson back fully healthy, which is
Our
going to
offensive
make
line got better.
Yep, that's also going to make a significant difference. I'm right there with you. I think this is going to be a very tough game, and coming off of a very tough stretch, it'll kind of be a deflator after potentially, picking up a Giants win at home and maybe looking ahead to what is sure to be a much tougher stretch of the season with the end of November, which brings us back to Chicago. I hate this back and forth and back and forth.
I
It's only
know.
two back-to-back games.
Do you remember the one year where they had it was home away, home away, home away,
Yeah.
home the entire season? That was brutal. That
Yeah,
was just brutal.
I'm curious to see who got the friendly schedule out of them all, which I'm sure is already being chirped about in some
Yeah.
circles. But Pittsburgh Steelers in Chicago, first time in 8 years we are seeing the Pittsburgh Steelers
Wow.
in Chicago, and maybe Aaron Rodgers.
Maybe his last game ever at Soldier Field.
Will Howard,
God, who else did
Jason
they have?
Rudolph.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I don't know.
Well, I think it's going to be a win for the Bears. I just think the Bears will be the better team at this point. I think the Steelers have a lot, a lot of things to figure out. I did see a pretty funny tweet though. It was I think it was Monday, and it said schedule leak. The Steelers will be 9-8 and play in the first AFC wildcard round again this year at this time, which is what they're always slotted in. So, but in all seriousness, I think this is a win for the Bears. It's at home. It's a team you should beat.
Yeah, and frankly, I think there was a lot of hype heading into the early part of the offseason that had the Steelers looking at a combination of George Pickens and DK Metcalf. Now it's just DK Metcalf after the George Pickens trade. I don't quite understand how that makes them a better squad, and not really sure what caused that to occur. And they need to just start leaning in one direction or the other in terms of where they want to go as a team moving forward. TJ Watt, always going to be a threat. Could be injured again. He's had a history of injuries kind of piling up over the years, so you don't know if that far into the season if he will be fully healthy. That might be asking a lot of somebody at his age. And then you have the running game where there's no more Najee Harris there. They do draft Caleb Johnson out of Iowa in the second round, so you will have to deal with him. And then Warren as well, their backup running back, or maybe in this case, their starting running back based on what he was able to do last year with the team. I still don't think it's enough. I do believe that the Bears are going to come away with a victory here. They're going to be in a good standing spot down the stretch. but this is where it's going to get dicey. And I start to worry, can they close the deal? Because Black Friday could
Oh,
be very ugly.
this is gonna be their toughest game of the schedule. Outside of probably Baltimore. These are the two, Baltimore and Philly here. This is tough. I can't pick against the defending champs at home. Black
Yeah.
Friday, prime time, standalone, not prime, but standalone game. Entire country's watching. It's a chance for the Bears to make a statement. If they're for real, they got a chance. But I'm going with Philly. I think they're too good. I think they're gonna be the favorites in the NFC again this year. When it's all said and done, they'll probably be the number 1 seed or number 2. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to Philadelphia in this one.
And I'm right there with you as well. I think that there's still a sizable gap with what the Bears are as a football team and what the Philadelphia Eagles are as a football team. There's nothing there that screams that they're going to be able to walk into what is arguably the most hostile environment in the NFL with that fan base
Yeah.
and be able to pull one out against the defending champs. Saquon Barkley's still a hell of a player. And it seems like everything's just kind of fallen into place for the team, even though they did lose quite a few players on the defensive side of the ball. It's still a pretty darn good defense in Philadelphia. And it's something that is going to be arguably the toughest test for Caleb Williams this season in my mind for what he's going to face off against. Because I mean, if they truly do step into this game at 7-4, there's going to be a significant amount of hype over the team. Even
Yes.
no matter where the Eagles are at, it's going to be a true test of where they're at and coming out of a national game. Yeah, is it Netflix? Is that who has it? Or is it Amazon? It's one of the streamers.
It's Amazon. Yeah,
It's
it's
okay.
got to
It's
be
Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah, I think having that data themselves, there's going to be a narrative that's going to carry, and they need to be very careful about how they carry themselves that game and perform that game because it's not going to go away. You've got a long week on it. You got to be prepared for that. Then again, a
And
road game.
a short week game too.
Yes, that too. It's not ideal, especially against a bruising team like the Steelers, and then heading
Yes.
straight across
Yeah.
their in-state rival to the Eagles. But then again, a little bit of a longer. You get 2 extra days to then prepare for the Packers up at Lambeau Field. A noon game up in Green Bay, sitting at 7-5. Where do they go?
Oh man! So when I was looking at this year and preparing, I think the Bears are gonna go. I think they're gonna split with the division. Actually, I think they're gonna go 3-3 in the division. So I got this one as a loss, which is gonna spoil what I think is gonna happen later on down the road. I think the Bears are gonna lose this one. I think this is just a tough stretch, man. They beat the Packers last year. I get it. I'm happy about it, but recently they just have not been successful against the Packers besides that one win in 8 tries, 9 tries. So I think Green Bay gets this one at home. But I think the Bears are going to get revenge in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm there with you as well. It's hard to say that things mattered in that victory in week 18 for them. I mean, Malik Willis played the majority of the game. It wasn't Jordan Love. They've improved that wide receiver core. They haven't done a ton on the defensive side of the ball, so I am a little bit curious about that to just see, what the Bears are going to be able to go up against. But knowing that we have a piece of proof that Caleb Williams was not going to get shaken going in there and performing at the level that he was. I do find some comfort in that, knowing that that confidence is there for him, and it was a big victory for him as a stepping stone into this season. But again, I think as long as Jordan Love stays healthy and doesn't go down like he did, that we're probably looking at a loss here. So then the only back-to-back home stretch of
Which
the
is
season.
weird, man.
So stupid. I am so fed up with the schedule. The more I look at it, the more it just ticks me off. The Cleveland Browns on December 14th, another noon game.
A win for the Bears. I think the Browns defense is going to be good. I don't know who's going to play quarterback for them at this stage. like we talked about, I mean, it could be Shador, could be Dylan Gabriel, could be Joe Flacco, could be who else is there? Joe Flacco, Shador,
Dylan
Gabriel, and who's
Kenny
the other
Pickett.
one? Kenny Pickett. Yeah, I think the Bears are going to win this game at home. I think they're going to bounce back from a 2-game losing streak, get back on track, and give us hope here in the final 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I'm there with you as well. And again, this is a team that the Bears frankly should have beaten when they last faced off against them.
Yep.
And I think that based on where the team is now, that there are so many factors in play that it should not shift that way again. I think this is going to be a big victory for them, setting them up nicely down the stretch in these final 3 games. Sitting at, I mean, we're just like in tandem here. We got both identical 6 records. All right, so you kind of spoiled it from the previous week. So Packers coming into Soldier Field, again, a game they should have won last year because of the low kick trajectory, causing Cairo Santos to get a last-second kick blocked. Bears come away with the victory here.
Yes. I think they're going to beat the Packers at home. Will be one of those kind of standalone games, either 3 or 6:30, depending on what the network wants. I think the Bears are going to beat the Packers. They're going to get revenge. They're going to split with the Packers. I think they kind of get back on track here and make for a very interesting final 2 games coming up.
Yeah, I think that there's a statement to be made that the Bears want to make it known that they are moving in the right direction and they don't want to get swept by the Packers. I think that that is something that is going to loom large, especially having faced them 2 weeks prior. And again, the sour taste that was left in their mouth from last year, they don't want to experience that again. And I would imagine they want to make it a statement that it's not going to hang in the balance. And I think that's going to be big, especially if they are really in a must-win situation at this point, coming down the stretch, and a big road game coming up, despite it not necessarily mattering how good the Niners are, just the fact that it's a house of horrors for them in Week 17 out in San Francisco at Levi Stadium.
Can you guess what I'm going to say for this one?
Loss.
Yeah, I don't. Even if the 49ers aren't as good as they've been, I hate the Bears playing there. I know they won there a couple years ago. It was still, I believe, kind of an ugly game. It was a game that was in the balance, most of it. I think the Bears are going to lose this game. I mean, this is a tough one on the road towards the end of the year. Yeah, I'm not liking this one.
I'm finally going to break with you on this, and I'm going to say this is the crowning achievement of the history of the Bears just being so damn terrible in San Francisco, and they come away with the victory. Again, this was a Niners team that was 6-11 a year ago. And
a lot of injuries though.
There were a lot of injuries, but again, it's an aging roster that has just not seen much to write home about, even though the Bears played terrible there last year. I get it. They got their butts whooped. It was 38-13. It wasn't a good game. Brock Purdy looked like an absolute stud. Caleb Williams did not. And Isaac Guerrero was running over Bears players like it was nothing. That being said, I think it was at that point in the season that the team just kind of gave up.
Yeah, that was a give-up game.
That was definitely a piece to that result that I think, again, you want to look back and say, that's not us anymore. And given this could get the Bears to double-digit wins and potentially clinch a playoff spot, that there's that much for them to play for, I would hope that they feel empowered enough to go out there and dominate what I'm expecting to be a relatively weaker Niners team.
Yeah. I could see that. With the House of Horrors has been San Francisco and the Bears franchise history. Yeah, I got to put it as a loss. But I do have positive news. I think the Bears are going to win their season finale against the Lions. I think I think they'll get them to the 10-win mark. Here's the thing, though. I do feel like they could very easily lose that Washington game. So they very well could be 9-8. I kind of, it's early. So with these predictions, it's tough because a lot's going to change between now and when they play all these teams, essentially. So people need to keep in mind, these are very, very early projections. Okay. These probably won't be my final ones. I'll probably go through my final ones right before the season starts. And honestly, I'll probably have them at 9-8, kind of where I have them now. I think if they beat the Lions, will be 10-7 with my record prediction.
Yep.
I think they're going to beat the Lions at home. I think this is a game where a lot will be on the line and they get it done. They avenge that loss. And like I said, they split with the NFC North 3-3, lost the Lions in week 2 in my prediction. I got them winning this game.
Yeah, I actually have them winning as well. And I'm still trying to figure out how I got them to 11-6 because I did not feel that way before we started this.
I'll do it, man. But well, you got to also look though. Like, I think one of the games you picked was the Bengals. That could be a toss up. You know what I mean? So a lot of these games we're picking, like I said, they're going to change over time too.
Yeah, I mean it shows you just how volatile it can be.
Yeah.
Over the course of the season. But here's where my mentality is. You look at where the Lions were a year ago. They had the number 1 seed sewn up for the division or for the conference, and they came out and laid an egg. And that was after they kind of went all out in week 18. And I think that the Eagles are probably the number 1 seed this year. I don't think it's going to be the Lions, but I still think the Lions are going to win the division. Yeah, I'll make that very clear. It's going to not be up for debate come week 18. And there's going to be situations in which the Lions don't, even though Dan Campbell is a complete oddball when it comes to an NFL head coach and it works, I think he's going to understand the ramifications if he goes all out and risks potential having to play the following week as a 2 potential 3 seed against some of the tougher wild card teams, one of which could be the Bears or the Commanders. Again, having faced the Commanders and gotten whooped a year ago, that's going to loom large for him, and it's going to be a byproduct of the Bears probably have a little bit more to play for in terms of seeding, and it's going to make an impact, especially in front of a home crowd, and they really want to get that ball rolling heading into the playoffs, heading into road games as a wild card team, and potentially the final game that we see in Chicago for 2025 playoffs, depending what seeding rolls out. But, I'll honestly, anything between a 9-8 and 11-6, I'm happy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's progress from where they were last year, especially. I think, and like I said, a lot of these games, I mean, like Washington, we were different on. It could go either way. The Bengals, we were different on. It could go either way. So yeah, I mean, like we said, a lot of these things are going to change between now and week 1. Does Trey Hendrickson get traded? Going to be traded to Washington? That changes 2 games on this schedule. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, but I think it's a tough schedule. Like you mentioned, the Bears have 1 back-to-back home game stretches. They have 3 on the road back-to-back games with a bye sandwiched in between. One thing I didn't know, or not know, but one thing I saw that's interesting is they're only traveling about 12,000 miles this year, which is like 3rd or 4th fewest in the NFL, which is an interesting one. Yeah, I got to look where I found that again. But they're not traveling a ton compared to other teams. They're also not going overseas, which does add to, like, let me see if I can find the tweet, but it does add, here it is. It's Adam Schefter tweeted out, the Bears are traveling 12,522 miles. Only the Lions, Ravens, Bills, and Bengals are fewer. The Patriots are 12,547. The Packers 12,929. So give or take 400 miles there, 25 miles with the Patriots. But you look, the Chargers, 37,000. The Rams, 34,000. The Seahawks, 31,000. That's because West Coast and how the schedule, essentially played out for them and who they're playing. And then the other one, I bet you could take a guess who is 4th on this list. Think Cardinals? International.
Oh, I don't know who has those games. Jacksonville?
Jacksonville.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So not a lot of travel for the Bears.
No,
Which is
which
interesting.
is a good thing. It's a good
Yes.
thing. Clearly has its impact, but I like you said, there's some factors in play that are going to make some seismic shifts if and when they do happen. I mean, heck, for all we know, the Bears say, you know what? Trey Hendrickson's our missing piece and comes to Chicago. I then 11-6, fine. I'm good with that. Like
Yeah.
I will say that keeps me very content for thinking that. And honestly, I could even shift another game up in that situation.
They're
Yeah,
far.
if they do that, which I still think is not necessarily a likelihood by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to at least entertain it because the Bears, despite all of their upgrades along the defensive line, still need that guy,
That
that
pass. Yeah.
stud on the edge. And I mean, that's who Trey Hendrickson is as a player. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, this is fun to do. And like we said, I mean, it's very early predictions. Like,
Yeah.
if the Bears win 4 or 5 games, we'll have egg on our face. But you have to remember, it just came out the schedule. Like, a lot of things are going to change. So, but yeah, I mean, now we look forward to OTAs and mini camp coming up, and then the break and training camp, and we'll kind of get going fully into football content, man.
It's the season of hope, Bears fans.
Right?
The season of hope. Let it ride all the way through to the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I got to go watch the Bears schedule reveal video. I saw a partial clip
people
of
said
it.
it's good.
Yeah,
so I got to check.
I saw
it out.
Ben Johnson in the Cubs jersey. I did while I was scrolling Twitter and looking at stuff. I did see the Chargers again had the best one. Minecraft was this year. The Jaguars did the guy, the viral guy who wakes up at like 4 a.m. and does all the stuff. You ever seen that? And then I think people are saying the Broncos had a good one. And Houston had one with the Was Up guys, I think. So that would be kind of interesting. Yeah. They're getting creative though, man. These are getting better.
I love it. Yeah, I mean it's entertaining and it does what it needs to. So it's all in good fun. Like I said, you got to get the fan bases hyped, and the majority of the teams definitely do that very, very well. But that's going to do it here for our 2025 schedule live reaction for the Chicago Bears upcoming season. We're optimistic, folks. Somehow, some way, we're optimistic, and we'll see if it holds. We got lots to cover. OTAs just around the corner. And then before you know it, we'll be talking training camp and everything that goes into that, along with the off-season and preseason. So, for Zack Pearson, I'm Steven Johnson. Thanks for hanging out with us and listening, and we will talk to you next time covering the OTAs right here on the Bear Report and BearReport.com. Take care.